The Cleveland Browns sideline turned into an absolute war zone on Sunday afternoon, and what unfolded wasn't just some brief moment of frustration or a heated disagreement between competitive teammates. This was a complete and total meltdown, a public crash-out of monumental proportions that exposed everything wrong with one of the most overrated receivers in professional football. Jerry Jeudy, the so-called #1 wideout who has done absolutely nothing to deserve that designation, had the unmitigated gall to go after rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders in front of 70,000 screaming fans and millions watching from home. One missed throw. That's all it took for this man to completely lose his composure and attack the young quarterback who's been trying to salvage something from what's been an absolute disaster of a season in Cleveland. And here's the thing that makes this entire situation so mind-bendingly absurd, so laughably hypocritical that you almost can't believe it's real. Jerry Jeudy has been one of the single biggest reasons this Browns offense has been dysfunctional all year long, yet somehow he found the audacity to point fingers at anyone else. The footage from this sideline confrontation is absolutely damning, and it reveals everything you need to know about Jerry Jeudy as a player, as a teammate, and as a professional. You can see him storming towards Sanders with pure aggression in his body language, finger jabbing through the air, getting right up in the rookie's face while Sanders is sitting there trying to review the previous play on his tablet. Multiple offensive linemen had to physically intervene and pull Jeudy away from the situation because he was so completely unhinged, so out of control that things were escalating toward what could have easily become an actual physical altercation right there on the sideline. This wasn't some veteran trying to coach up a young player. This wasn't leadership or accountability or any of the other buzzwords people like to throw around when defending bad behavior. This was a full-scale mental breakdown from someone who clearly cannot handle the pressure and scrutiny that comes with playing professional football at the highest level. And the most insane part? Jerry Jeudy has absolutely zero standing, zero credibility, and zero right to be calling out anyone on that sideline, least of all a 22-year-old rookie quarterback who's been thrown into an impossible situation. Let's talk about the elephant in the room that makes this whole situation so ridiculously hypocritical it almost feels like a joke. Jerry Jeudy leads the entire National Football League in dropped passes with 9. Read that again and really let it marinate. The man who's screaming and pointing fingers at his quarterback over one incomplete pass is the same exact man who leads every single receiver in professional football in dropping catchable footballs. You literally cannot make this up. The irony is so thick you could cut it with a knife and serve it for dinner. 9 dropped passes means that 9 times this season, Jerry Jeudy had the football hit his hands, had a legitimate opportunity to make a play for his team, had a chance to help his rookie quarterback build some confidence and establish rhythm in this offense, and he flat out failed. 9 separate times he let the ball bounce off his hands, slip through his fingers, or clang off his helmet like he's never played the position before in his entire life. And somehow, someway, in some alternate dimension where logic and reason don't exist, this man felt justified in his aggressive confrontation with Shedeur Sanders over one single incomplete pass. The cognitive dissonance required to hold that position is absolutely staggering. But here's where it gets so much worse, and trust me when I say this paints an even uglier picture of Jerry Jeudy's performance this season. He's caught only 32 passes all year for 395 yards and one measly touchdown. One single touchdown. For a receiver who's supposedly the #1 option in this offense, those numbers aren't just disappointing or below expectations. They're catastrophically bad. They're historically awful. They're the kind of numbers that should immediately disqualify someone from ever opening their mouth to criticize anyone else. On that offensive side of the ball, that's barely over 12 yards per reception, which means even when Jerry Jeudy does manage to actually hold onto the football, he's not making explosive plays or generating big chunks of yardage. He's catching short routes, getting minimal yards after the catch, and doing absolutely nothing to help this offense create the kind of explosive plays that win football games and put points on the scoreboard. The touchdown number is particularly revealing because it shows that Jeudy is not a red zone threat, not someone the coaching staff trusts in critical situations, not a player who makes game-changing plays when his team desperately needs them most. 1 touchdown through 12 games is the kind of production you'd expect from a 4th-string tight end or a backup running back who occasionally gets thrown a screen pass, not from someone who's masquerading as a legitimate #1 wide receiver in the National Football League. The Denver Broncos, the team that invested a first-round draft pick in Jerry Jeudy back in 2020, couldn't wait to ship him out of town. They moved on from him as fast as humanly possible because they recognized what apparently everyone except Jerry Jeudy himself already knows. This man is not a franchise receiver, he's not a number one option, he's not even really worth the roster spot he currently occupies. Denver cut their losses and didn't look back, and their offense has been absolutely fine without him. Actually, they've been better since he left, which should tell you everything you need to know about his actual value to an NFL organization. Think about what it takes for a team to give up on their first-round draft pick, to publicly admit that the investment they made was a mistake, to accept the embarrassment and the hit to their reputation, and to just cut their losses and move forward. NFL teams are notoriously patient with first-round selections because of the sunk cost fallacy and the organizational reluctance to admit they were wrong about a major personnel decision. But Denver looked at Jerry Jeudy's production, evaluated his attitude and work ethic, watched him drop pass after pass, and they said enough is enough. They traded him away for basically nothing, just a couple of late-round picks, and they haven't regretted that decision for even a millisecond. And now, Cleveland is stuck dealing with the exact same player that Denver couldn't get rid of, fast enough. And here's something that really needs to be emphasized. Jerry Jeudy actually requested this trade. Not once, but twice. He went to the Broncos organization and demanded they send him somewhere else because he was unhappy with how he was being used, unhappy with the situation, unhappy with whatever convenient excuse he decided to blame for his own shortcomings. He wanted a fresh start, a new environment, a change of scenery, where maybe people wouldn't notice that he's just not that good at playing wide receiver in the National Football League. The Broncos granted his wish because they were probably relieved to finally be done with the headache. And what has Jerry Jeudy done with this fresh start in Cleveland? He's led the league in drops, posted embarrassing production numbers, fumbled the ball away while showboating, and now he's attacking his rookie quarterback on national television. That's quite the fresh start he's managed to create for himself. Steve Smith Sr., the former All-Pro receiver who never minces words and doesn't care about hurting feelings, absolutely eviscerated Jerry Jeudy during his time in Denver, and everything Steve Smith said has been proven 100% correct. Smith called Jeudy a Tier 3 receiver, basically saying he's not elite, he's not even good, he's just some guy who happens to play the position. Smith said teams shouldn't trade for him because he's not worth the investment. Smith pointed out that Jeudy can't handle constructive criticism and lacks the mental toughness to succeed at the highest level. And Jerry Jeudy's response? He got in his feelings about it, felt disrespected, and reportedly told Steve Smith he didn't want anything to do with him. That right there tells you everything about this man's character and his inability to accept accountability for his own performance. Instead of using that criticism as motivation to prove the doubters wrong, instead of
putting his head down and working to get better, Jeudy took it personally and shut down any opportunity for growth. That's not the mindset of a professional athlete who wants to be great. That's the mindset of someone who's more concerned with protecting his ego than improving his game. Jerry Jeudy is still running around acting like his Alabama pedigree means something in the NFL, and honestly, it's getting kind of sad at this point. Yes, he won the Biletnikoff Award in college as the nation's best receiver. Yes, he put up impressive numbers at Alabama and looked like a can't-miss prospect coming out of school. But that was years ago, and the NFL stopped caring about your college accomplishments about 5 minutes after you got drafted. The professional level is a completely different game, and Jeudy has been thoroughly exposed at every single turn. He couldn't produce consistently with Russell Wilson throwing him the ball in Denver. He couldn't produce during the Broncos' various quarterback disasters when they were cycling through different options, trying to find someone who could run the offense. And now he's not producing in Cleveland with yet another quarterback. But somehow he's convinced himself that the problem is everyone else except him. The mental gymnastics required to be Jerry Jeudy must be absolutely exhausting. To drop 9 passes, to catch only 32 balls all season, to have one pathetic touchdown, to post numbers that would be embarrassing for an undrafted rookie free agent, and then to turn around and aggressively confront your quarterback over one incomplete pass, requires a level of delusion that's almost impressive in its sheer audacity. Let's talk about what happened just last week against the Raiders, because it perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with Jerry Jeudy as a football player. Shedeur Sanders hit him with a nice pass, got him the ball in space with room to run, and what did Jeudy do? He started skipping. He started slowing down. He started showboating like he was about to take it to the house, trying to look cool and style on the defense before he even secured the play. And what happened next was entirely predictable. A Raiders defender came up from behind and punched the ball out, forcing a fumble that gave possession right back to Las Vegas. Jeudy was so worried about celebrating, so concerned with how he looked on camera, so focused on everything except securing the football and protecting the possession that he cost his team a potential scoring opportunity. That's selfish football. That's immature football. That's the kind of bonehead mistake that coaches can't stand because it shows a complete lack of awareness and discipline. And this is the same guy who's going to get in Shedeur Sanders' face over a missed throw? This is the same receiver who thinks he has the credibility to call out his quarterback? The lack of self-awareness is genuinely stunning. Now let's examine the other side of this situation because the contrast between these two players could not be more stark or more revealing. Shedeur Sanders is sitting there on that sideline trying to review the play, trying to learn from what went wrong, trying to understand how he can execute better on the next drive. That's what franchise quarterbacks do. That's what leaders do. That's what professionals who actually care about winning football games do. And Jerry Jeudy comes storming over, finger pointing, voice raised, getting in Sanders' face and telling him the missed connection was all his fault. The look on Shedeur Sanders' face during this confrontation says absolutely everything. You can see him thinking this dude is really coming at me right now when he's been the biggest problem on this offense all season long. Sanders showed remarkable restraint and professionalism by not escalating the situation, by not firing back even though he would have been completely justified in pointing out Jeudy's 9 drops and terrible production. A lesser quarterback, someone without Sanders' composure and maturity, might have snapped and said something that made things even worse. But Sanders took the high road, maintained his cool, and let the offensive linemen separate them before things got completely out of hand.
And speaking of those offensive linemen, the fact that multiple grown men had to physically pull Jerry Jeudy away from Shedeur Sanders is such an important detail that cannot be overlooked. When your own teammates, the guys who are supposed to be protecting everyone on that offensive side of the ball, feel the immediate need to physically separate a receiver from the quarterback, that tells you everything about how far out of line that receiver is being. Offensive linemen are naturally protective of their quarterbacks. They sacrifice their bodies every single play to keep the quarterback upright and safe. When they see a receiver attacking their quarterback over one incomplete pass, especially when that receiver has been absolutely terrible all season long, they're going to step in and shut it down immediately. The fact that it took multiple linemen to restrain Jeudy suggests this wasn't just a brief moment of frustration that would have passed on its own. This was a genuine attempt at confrontation that was escalating towards something potentially physical, and grown professional athletes had to intervene and remove Jeudy from the situation entirely. That's not veteran leadership. That's not trying to make your teammate better. That's a complete mental breakdown from someone who cannot handle adversity, cannot accept responsibility, and cannot function under the pressure of professional football. Let's run through a quick exercise to illustrate just how absurd it is that Jerry Jeudy is considered the #1 receiver on any NFL roster, because this really drives home how far he's fallen from where people thought he'd be. Would Jerry Jeudy be the #1 receiver in Miami over Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle? Absolutely not even close. Would he be the #1 in Washington over Terry McLaurin? Not a chance. Would he be the #1 in Seattle over DK Metcalf or Jackson Smith and Jigba? That's laughable on its face. Would he be the #1 in Cincinnati over Jamar Chase or T. Higgins? Come on now, let's be serious. Would he be the #1 in Dallas over CeeDee Lamb? Not in this universe or any parallel dimension. The list goes on, and the answer is the same every single time. Jerry Jeudy would not be the #1 receiver on any of these teams. He's only in that position in Cleveland because the Browns literally don't have anyone else, and even that's debatable when you consider that tight end Harrison Bryant has been more productive and more reliable than Jeudy this season. Bryant caught the only touchdown pass in the game against San Francisco. Bryant has shown better ability to get open and make contested catches. Bryant hasn't led the entire league in dropped passes. By any reasonable objective measure, Bryant has been a better receiving option than Jerry Jeudy, which should be absolutely mortifying for someone who's supposed to be a #1 wide receiver making significant money. The comparison to what actual legitimate number one receivers are doing around the league makes Jerry Jeudy's season look even more pathetic than it already does. CeeDee Lamb is putting up monster numbers in Dallas and carrying that offense. Tyreek Hill continues to be one of the most explosive and dangerous playmakers in all of football. Justin Jefferson came back from injury and immediately reminded everyone why he's considered an elite talent at the position. Amon-Ra St. Brown is putting together what might be an all-pro season in Detroit with his consistency and production. These are real number one receivers, players who elevate their quarterbacks and make everyone around them better, who consistently win their matchups regardless of coverage, who produce at high levels week after week after week. Jerry Jeudy is none of those things. He's not a difference maker. He's not someone who scares defensive coordinators when they're game planning. He's not a player who takes over games when his team needs a big play. He's just a guy with a fancy college resume who hasn't lived up to any of the expectations that came with being a first-round pick. The NFL community and social media have absolutely torched Jerry Jeudy over this sideline incident, and the reactions have been brutal but entirely justified. Fans across every platform are calling him
out for the blatant hypocrisy. Former players are questioning his professionalism and his understanding of what it means to be a teammate. Analysts are pointing out that you cannot lead the league in drops and then attack your quarterback on national television without looking like a complete clown. Even casual observers who don't follow the Browns closely can recognize how absurd this situation is. Emmanuel Acho went on air and called Jeudy's behavior completely unacceptable, which is exactly right. When you're getting roasted by everyone from diehard fans to respected media personalities to your own team's supporters, that should be a pretty clear sign that you're in the wrong. Browns fans in particular have completely turned on Jerry Jeudy. They're calling him a fraud, demanding that he be cut from the team immediately, pointing out that he and the coaching staff are actively sabotaging Shedeur Sanders' development, and expressing pure frustration that this is what their franchise has become. These aren't casual observers who don't understand football. These are people who watch every single snap, who desperately want this team to succeed, who have suffered through years of quarterback instability and disappointment, and who can clearly see that Jerry Jeudy is a massive problem that needs to be addressed before it does permanent damage. There are even rumors and speculation floating around about whether Jerry Jeudy might actually be jealous of Shedeur Sanders. Think about it. Sanders comes in as this highly touted prospect, the son of a legend, someone who commanded attention and generated buzz from the moment he arrived. Meanwhile, Jeudy has been grinding away in obscurity, dealing with trade requests and criticism and constant reminders that he's not living up to his potential. Could there be some resentment there? Could Jeudy be frustrated that the rookie is getting attention and grace that he never received? It's certainly possible, and it would explain some of the aggressive behavior we've seen on the sideline. Jealousy in locker rooms is real, and it can poison team chemistry faster than almost anything else. If Jeudy is harboring negative feelings towards Sanders for reasons that have nothing to do with football, that's a problem the Browns need to address immediately before it completely derails whatever hope they have of developing their young quarterback. Shedeur Sanders took full responsibility for the missed throw in his post-game comments, which is exactly what you want to see from your franchise quarterback. He didn't make excuses. He didn't blame Jeudy for running a wrong route or not being where he was supposed to be. He didn't throw anyone under the bus or try to deflect blame onto someone else. He simply said the throw was off and that he needs to execute better next time. That's accountability. That's leadership. That's maturity beyond his years. Meanwhile, Jerry Jeudy has shown absolutely zero accountability for his own failures and shortcomings. No acknowledgement that maybe his 9 drops have been a problem. No recognition that his production has been well below what's expected from a number one receiver. No admission that perhaps he's been part of the reason this offense has struggled to find any consistency or rhythm. Just finger-pointing, excuses, and now aggressive confrontations with the one person on that offense who's actually trying to make things work despite being put in an impossible situation. The Browns organization is at a crossroads, and they need to make a decision about Jerry Jeudy sooner rather than later. This kind of sideline behavior cannot and should not be tolerated under any circumstances, but especially not from a player who has performed as poorly as Jeudy has this season. If the Browns are genuinely serious about building around Shedeur Sanders, if they truly believe he's the franchise quarterback they've been desperately searching for over the past 2 decades, then they absolutely cannot allow veteran players to publicly undermine him and attack him on national television. They need to send a crystal clear message that this behavior is unacceptable, that accountability matters at all levels of the organization, and that production on the
Field is what earns you the right to speak up and criticize others. That message needs to come in the form of real consequences. Bench Jerry Jeudy. Reduce his role significantly and give those snaps to younger receivers who might actually catch the football when it hits their hands. Better yet, cut him outright and just move on entirely. The Browns would legitimately be better by subtraction at this point. Get Jeudy out of that building, remove his negative influence from the locker room, give his playing time to people who want to be there and want to help the team win, and stop pretending that he's some valuable piece worth building around. He's proven over and over again across multiple teams and multiple seasons that he's not a difference maker, not a reliable option, and not someone with the mental makeup to succeed at the highest level of professional football. Shedeur Sanders deserves so much better than what he's currently dealing with in Cleveland. He deserves receivers who can actually catch the football when it's thrown to them. He deserves veteran teammates who will support his development and help him grow, rather than tearing him down and attacking him over minor mistakes. He deserves an organization that will protect him from toxic behavior and hold everyone accountable for their performance and conduct. Instead, he's stuck dealing with Jerry Jeudy, a receiver who crashes out on the sideline over one missed throw while completely ignoring his own mountains of failures, mistakes, and shortcomings. The young quarterback is trying to learn one of the hardest positions in all of professional sports, adjust to the speed and complexity of NFL defenses, develop chemistry with his receivers, and navigate the enormous pressure that comes with being a franchise quarterback. He shouldn't also have to deal with his own teammates creating additional drama and dysfunction. That's an extra layer of stress and difficulty that makes an already challenging job exponentially harder, and it's completely unnecessary and entirely avoidable if the Browns simply do the right thing and remove Jerry Jeudy from the equation. Jerry Jeudy is surviving purely on reputation at this point, coasting on the Bolitnikoff Award he won years ago at Alabama, trading on the first-round draft pedigree that made people believe he was destined for greatness in the NFL. But reputation without production is completely meaningless in professional football. The league doesn't care what you did in college once you've been around for multiple seasons. The league doesn't care what round you were drafted in or what people thought about your potential coming out of school. The league cares about one thing and one thing only. Can you play at this level? Can you produce when your number is called? Can you help your team win football games? And the answer for Jerry Jeudy has been a resounding, emphatic no for multiple consecutive seasons now. He couldn't do it in Denver despite being given every opportunity. He's not doing it in Cleveland despite getting a fresh start in a new situation. At some point, people need to accept reality and stop making excuses for him. He is what he is at this stage of his career, and what he is happens to be a replacement-level receiver with an elite player's ego, which is an absolutely toxic combination that leads to exactly the kind of dysfunction we saw on that sideline. The Browns need to cut their losses with Jerry Jeudy immediately. Trade him for whatever they can possibly get, even if it's just a conditional late-round pick that might not even convey. Cut him outright if they have to, and just eat whatever remaining money is on his contract. But get him out of that building and away from Shedeur Sanders before he does any more damage to the young quarterback's confidence and development. Cleveland finally has a quarterback worth building around for the first time in what feels like forever. They cannot afford to let a washed-up receiver with a massive ego problem and zero self-awareness derail that development because he can't handle his own failures and inadequacies. This is bigger than one player or one season. This is about protecting the future of the franchise and making sure they don't waste what could be a generational talent at the quarterback position.
Jerry Jeudy is a fraud.
He's a phony #1 receiver. He's a player who has been completely exposed at every level of professional football, and yet somehow still refuses to accept reality or take accountability for his own performance. His sideline attack on Shedeur Sanders was disgraceful, unprofessional, hypocritical, and totally unjustified, given his own abysmal performance throughout this entire season. The Browns organization needs to send an unmistakable message that this behavior will not be tolerated. And that message needs to result in Jerry Jeudy either finding himself on the unemployment line or getting traded to some desperate team that's willing to take a chance on damaged goods. Cleveland deserves better. Shedeur Sanders deserves better. And Browns fans who have suffered through decades of dysfunction and disappointment definitely deserve better than watching this circus play out week after week. What do you think about Jerry Jeudy's complete crash out on that sideline? Does a receiver who leads the entire league in dropped passes have any right whatsoever to attack his quarterback on national television? Should the Browns cut him immediately, or at minimum bench him for the rest of the season to send a message? Drop your completely unfiltered thoughts in the comments below, because this is exactly the kind of situation that demands real talk and brutally honest opinions. If you're as fired up about this fraud being thoroughly exposed as I am, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more unfiltered Browns coverage and NFL analysis, and hit that notification bell so you never miss when we call out these players for their garbage behavior and hold them accountable. Jerry Jeudy is a certified bum, and it's time everyone stopped pretending otherwise. Until next time, keep demanding accountability from these players and this organization, because that's exactly what this franchise needs if they're ever going to turn things around.